Christian Dyer. Welcome to Out of the Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I know that you've probably been very busy now that the MLR season is just around the corner.
Yeah, preseason is it's a good hectic. The days are jam-packed with training and meetings and everything, but for me it's not a job, it's a passion and a love, so I've got nothing bad to say about it.
And you've been part of some really cool and memorable rugby moments, and I know that last year was huge for you for many reasons, from your MLR debut to national team duties. So, but before we get into all of that, let's get to know you a little bit better. And tell us, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
So I'm born and raised in Sacramento, California.
Nice.
And I was in a big family of five, and growing up was a big real estate family. My dad was basically the Bob the Builder of Sacramento. I mean, he's building homes left, right, and center. And so majority of my childhood was hanging around him and being on job sites and moving homes. I mean, I think I've lived in probably 21 of his and in a total of probably 30 moves by now.
Wow.
And so the other side of the story was sports. And I was always a competitive little kid. I mean, I wanted to be first place in every single thing we did, whether it's a spelling bee, which I typically didn't get first in spelling bees, or it was kickball at recess. I was just that kid that was fighting to be first in everything. And I think that's where I can attribute some of my success to, is just being so competitive growing up. And so I played football since I was probably 8 years old, whenever you can start Pee-wee football. And then in the spring and winter, when football's not around, I was trying every other sport, whether it's basketball or baseball or soccer, or I even tried lacrosse. Nice. And then sixth grade is when rugby found me. And so that's kind of what kickstarted the rugby career, but I wasn't too good at it at that time. It was more so a desire than there's actually a chance of me continuing, whether it be in college or even at the international level. That was such a foreign dream that I had, but it didn't look that realistic. And so to sum it up, my childhood was amazing. And I'm so fortunate to be able to say that. And I have two incredible parents, a mom and dad, and I have an amazing sister, and I have an amazing younger brother who's my best friend. And, I tell the story now, and it just reminds me how privileged I am and how grateful I am to have that childhood. And I definitely can attribute who I am today to that upbringing, especially from mom and dad.
I love how we were talking about real estate before we started.
Yeah.
How ironic you grew up in, you just know about all that. That's so cool. And are you the oldest or middle?
No, I'm the middle.
Wait, let me guess. Middle. Yes, I knew it. Yeah. I feel like the middles are usually I think you're very mature. And my brother, he's the middle child, and he's literally, I feel like he's my older brother. I'm like the social butterfly of the family. Yeah. I mean, my sister is a genius. I mean, that girl could have majored at or graduated from Cal Berkeley in 3 years with two majors and whatnot, but she decided to do another semester so she could stay one semester with me when I was a freshman. And I mean, this girl is going to take over the world. She's going to be a CEO of some company. So she does that in her life. And I'm just this guy who loves sports, and I'm a social bee. I love being around people. I like to think I just bring the energy to any situation that we're in. And then my little brother is just this laid back, cool dude who everybody loves him. We thought he was adopted because he's just different. But Jack's amazing. And so we're all three different, but I'm definitely that middle child. I love that. I get that. I'm one out of three. I'm the oldest, and then it's my brother, my little sister. And I think it's a nice way to grow up, to be just so close to your siblings. It really makes you who you are ultimately.
Yeah, no kidding. And then as the older I've gotten, that's when my sister and I got closer, because growing up, we were so different. She was this amazing student in school, and I all I wanted to do was get out of school and go play sports and hang with friends and go hang with dad on job sites. So our lives couldn't have been more different. And I think that's what separated us growing up, not in a malicious or sort of way. We just didn't connect on a lot of things. But once my sister graduated and once I graduated, I think, first of all, I matured a little bit, which was finally bound to happen. But that's when we started connecting I guess, on a deeper level. And so, you know, it's natural and whatnot. And so I don't look back with any regrets, but now us three are pretty close.
And you mentioned that, you know, rugby found you in 6th grade. And let's be honest, rugby is very popular in many other places in the world, not really the US.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? Who did it? Like, how did you come across rugby?
Yeah, especially back then, which, I mean, I'm 25 now, so I must have been 14 or 13 then. You know, 11, basically a decade ago, rugby wasn't too big, but there's pockets around the US where rugby is pretty big, especially at the youth level. And I'm from Sacramento, which is it just happened to be one of those hot pockets of rugby. And so a family friend told my dad about it, that his two of his boys were playing, and they were like, hey, bring Christian out. So I'm just sitting there like, all right, cool. It's another sport. I get to run around, you know, another chance to win and another chance to tackle somebody. I mean, I was pretty
another chance to tackle.
Yeah. And that's, I think, what attracted to me so much. And so I tried it out, and I mean, I'll tell you what, I didn't know any of the rules. You're supposed to throw the ball lateral or backwards. I had no idea what that meant, but just being out there with buddies and getting to play another sport just excited me. And so I continued with it. And then my high school, being a private boys high school, which is traditionally where rugby kind of came from in England, has just a long tradition of the sport. And I think it has probably the longest lines of USA internationals. You know, they come from my high school. And so it's just a cool tradition at the place. And knowing that definitely incentivized me to continue playing the sport, because I wanted to play for Jesuit. I wanted to play for some really, really cool and established organization where, you know, it's so much bigger than just me at the time. And that's really where I fell in love with the game, was the transition from sophomore to junior year.
And that's when you left basically the other sports. You kind of just left them behind and you chose rugby.
Yeah. So I played football all 4 years of high school.
Oh, okay.
I was never going to give it up. I loved it. My best friends played it.
I didn't know that.
What football taught me from a toughness standpoint, both physically and mentally, from an accountability standpoint, from a team standpoint, was so invaluable. And so I can attribute a lot of my success on the rugby field to my experience and time playing football. But they also work hand in hand together. You learn how to tackle an open space in rugby, and that transitions to football. And I grew physically so much from the game of football, especially in the weight room. And that just helped me out on the rugby field. And so it was a perfect match. But not until college is when I hung up the football cleats and I continued wearing the rugby cleats.
So did you kind of make that decision before you chose what college you wanted to go to? Did you kind of choose that based off of rugby? Yeah,
there was some small schools. You know, I didn't hit puberty till I must have been almost a freshman in college. And I was undersized in high school. And so I think that's where I lacked in football, you know, trying to get these big scholarships. I didn't have the physical capabilities that I wish I did. But in rugby, there's a position, you know, for all shapes and sizes, which is such a unique aspect of the game. And so I excelled in a couple positions that didn't require me to be this huge freak athlete, you know, that football sometimes requires. And so I could have gone to a couple small schools for football, but I realized, you know, I don't really want to go down that path. Junior year, I went over to London to represent the USA at the under 18 level. And I think that's when I realized, wow, there's a career out of this. And there's also an opportunity to represent my country, which is one of the biggest honors that, you know, I've ever been, you know, able to do. And so I was like, you know, this is kind of the trajectory that I want to go down. And so, you know, junior year is when I was like, you know, it's going to be rugby. Let's figure out where, you know, what school in the US is going to be the best for me that complements my athletic pursuits and also, you know, academics. And that was Cal Berkeley.
Oh, that's so awesome. And is that kind of when you realized like that this is something that you wanted to do full time?
Yeah, I think I knew that honestly before going into college.
High school.
You know, I think college I knew was a stepping stone, and it was an opportunity, you know, it's just a platform for me to get a great degree, have a good college experience, which I did. I mean, I'll never trade that for anything. But I knew those 4 years were so pivotal after college, you know, where I wanted to take my rugby career after. And so, no, I knew I wanted to be a professional rugby player.
I kind of read somewhere, I don't want to like read too much, but somewhere in there was an ACL tear at probably the worst moment. Not that there is a good moment to ever do that. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How did that happen? And kind of, the timing behind that.
Sure. So that was 2019. And that summer, I got asked to go join the USA Sevens team, which is the Olympic version of the game, down in Chula Vista, to compete for a spot at the Pan American Games. And at this point in my career, that would have been the biggest achievement,
huge
rugby achievement, in my life. And so, I mean, it was guns blazing. I was all in for this. I went down for a couple weeks for the camp, for the tryout, and I just gave everything I had to it. I mean, that was probably the fittest and most ready I've ever been for rugby. And so I threw myself into it. 2 weeks go by, I make the team. So I'm on my high horse right now. I mean, parents are stoked. Yeah. We're going to Lima, Peru. I'm going to go represent the USA. I got my cousins, my uncles, they all booked their flight. They're going. So I'm like, sweet. Like this is awesome. Yeah. I go back down to camp for 2 weeks right before leaving for Lima. And 3 days before going, I go up for a kickoff and boom, I hit the ground. I tear my ACL.
No.
So in that moment, I'm like, no way I tore my ACL. Like I knew something bad happened, but I wasn't ready to, I guess, admit or accept the fact that, you did something bad. And so I basically jogged off the field feeling invincible because all this adrenaline's hitting me. And I'm saying, no way, I'm injured. And then a couple of days later, MRI came back, fully torn ACL. So, that sucked. To lack of better words, that did suck. But I look back on it now, it's the biggest blessing in disguise that I've ever had in my life. I go from being on my high horse to being at probably one of the lowest points in my life, because at that point, rugby was my identity, and rugby, everything I did on the field was attributing to how I felt off the field. And that's a dark path that I think a lot of athletes experience in their life that doesn't get touched on too much. But that was a reality in that moment. But for the first time in my life, I didn't have a sport to play. I wasn't waking up early to go to the weight room. I wasn't practicing after school, and it forced me to figure out what in life gets me going, what in life gets me ticked. I found that I have hobbies outside of the game. I found that my friends love me, not because I'm a rugby player, but because I'm Christian Dyer. It was an eye-opening experience for me, one that I'm glad that actually happened. And so 20 months later, because of COVID, I got back on the rugby field and I was back with the USA, and physically I was in a better position, but mentally I was just so much more composed and so much more mature.
I love that. Because it's not an easy injury to come back from. Like I've met so many people, I mean, mostly soccer players, and a lot of them have been my friends, where they just don't come back from it, at least not the same. I mean, that's a huge injury. And the fact that you're telling us that this was probably like a blessing in disguise and you learned so much from it, that's huge. And what was that recovery process for you? Because obviously, like you mentioned, you were going from like your highest high to probably the lowest thing that an athlete can go through. So like, how did you keep yourself motivated?
So it's not, I don't think it's about motivation, because I think motivation is almost like seasonal. It comes and it goes. For me, it was more just falling back on my discipline and my training and basically who I am as a person, to get me through that. And, at first it's tough because, you have a pretty gruesome surgery. It's pretty invasive. It's painful, and you're pretty immobile for the first few weeks and can't work out. You can't run, you can't sweat, you're gaining weight. Like so many things are changing in your life that they're basically foreign to you. So from a mental perspective, it's essentially, having to remind myself that what I'm going through right now is temporary. And then once I started getting into rehab, it's small wins every day. Like at first you're just trying to move your knee 1 or 2 degrees more. And so that's when I really believed in win the day mentality. And it's, hey, like today, let's just focus on a couple more degrees of flexion in my knee. Then tomorrow we'll get a couple more. And then maybe next week we're going to progress to walking without my brace. And so I just started approaching each day with this mentality of what can I do today to get a little bit better? And then, you compound that week after week, month after month, and you look back and you're at a completely different place. That was my mentality, and probably the hardest I've ever worked in my life. But I had just this fear that I wasn't going to be who I was before as a rugby player. I had this fear that this injury is going to influence the rest of my rugby career. And I think that's what motivated me and drove me so much and so hard to come back better than I actually thought I would.
I love that. And from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, after college, you were drafted by New York. You chose not to go. And I think you were focusing more on, making the Olympic team.
Yep.
It didn't go the way that you planned. But can you tell us a little bit about that story?
So I entered the draft, and just to put context on this, I had to enter the draft to be able to play in Major League Rugby at some point. So my intent was never to get drafted and go to a team. It was more of a formality.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know. So right after college, and during that COVID year, the coach of the US Sevens team, which is basically in pursuit of the Olympics coming up, said, "Hey, Christian, you expedite your graduation from Cal. We'll bring you down here, sign you on a contract, boom, full time." So I said, "Sweet, let's do it." So I took like 20 or 21 units over the course of a summer, and I told you, I don't like school that much. So I really had to dig deep for that one. I really had to dig deep for that one. But no, I mean, just the thought of me potentially playing in the Olympics and also living my dream of, playing rugby for the US outweighed any of that concern or thought or anxiety about doing school for a summer. I was like,
sign me up.
I'm in.
All the classes.
Whatever it takes mentality.
Yeah.
So, New York drafted me. I didn't go to New York. I moved down to San Diego, Chula Vista. And I moved down in the August of 2020. And so the Olympics are July of 2021. They got pushed back because of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a year of just training for the Olympics. We went to Madrid. We had tournaments in the US. We had international teams come play with us. It was just basically a year of grinding. And, but I was living a dream. Like I literally was playing rugby every day and wasn't getting paid much, but I was still getting paid money to play a sport. And so for me, I'm feeling invincible. And we get towards the summer months, and we had a tournament in LA, and that night, coach kind of had to make a decision because I had the USA 15s team, which is the other version of rugby. And so they're calling my name and saying, "Hey, we want Christian to fly to London tomorrow to debut, play for the US, but we need to know if he's going to the Olympics." And so Coach Friday, made the decision that I wasn't ready. I wasn't selected, and I had to live with that. And it was a little gut punch, but when one door closes, 10 more open up. And I did some laundry that night. I packed a bag. I flew to London at 7:30 a.m. the next day, and there was just no time to think. And so, it would have been nice to go to the Olympics, but had I gone, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today. I probably would still be playing sevens. I wouldn't be playing 15s. I wouldn't be in Houston. I wouldn't have just gone to Dubai in South Africa for 6 weeks. Like, it's funny how life works like that. And in the moment you can be pretty down, but you give it a couple weeks or a couple months or a year, and you look back and you're like, wow, things do happen for a reason. And look how much good came out of that negative moment. And
that's, you and I were talking about just like the behind the scenes moments that a lot of people don't get to see. And that right there, it just shows that, I mean, from what I can tell, like, you have such a good way to just like handle those bad things, quote unquote bad, or like rejections. And you just kind of said, well, this is not going to stop me.
Yeah. And I wasn't always like that. I didn't always have this, I guess, emotional maturity to me. But I've got amazing mentors in my life. I got people that I look up to, who I talk to through these moments, and they give me guidance. And, I worked with a sports psychologist. And so, I'm constantly figuring out ways that I can improve my mental game, not just my physical game. And I'm grateful that I made that conscious decision to go down that route. It's paying off. And in the moments that aren't all sunshine and rainbows, I'm able to handle them with, a positive light. There's good that comes from bad, but I wasn't always looking at it that way.
It's like a movie.
No, it was the next. I mean, if you think of tennis, there's singles and doubles. Rugby, there's sevens and there's 15s. So
gotcha. Okay.
I didn't make the singles team. I got called the next day to go play the doubles, but in reality, the 15s side of the game is the pinnacle of rugby. It's the biggest, version of the game. And so it was It was pretty cool.
Okay, I feel better. I'm like, man, so many hurdles.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need a popcorn break.
No kidding.
And after that, you kind of just, you went from there, right? You haven't stopped since. You just made the best out of it.
It's been 100 miles an hour. I mean, I knew I always wanted to go back to that version of the game. I didn't think it was going to be that soon, but there's something about it that just made me fall more in love with it than I previously was. And I had this feeling that I didn't want to stop. And, I wanted to see how far I can actually take the game and how far I can test myself. And so, that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. And then eventually you joined the Houston SaberCats, which was last year, 2022. And that was your debut MLR season. And I mean, that was huge for you and obviously for the team. I mean, Houston made the playoffs for the very first time. So what has that experience been like for you? And maybe like take us back to 2022 and you joining Houston.
So let's see, that summer when I told you we went to London, then we went to Dublin, and then we had a few games that fall, and that opened up some doors overseas. And I got a call from a team, and it was basically on a Wednesday, and they said, hey, Friday, we got to fly you out, move here for, it was basically 4 months to fill somebody who got injured. But I was pretty physically and emotionally drained at this point. And so, I had to make a decision, and it was a hard one. I can go chase my dream even more and test myself against the best competition there is. But I also reminded myself, hey, I'm not feeling 100% right now. Like physically, I'm a little beat up. I've been going for a year and a half plus, and to then go join the top competition in the world may not be what's right for me now. And so I put that on hold. And when I made that decision, it was, okay, where in the US can I play? I'm going to get about 6 weeks off of rugby, a good off season, start a preseason, where in the US is going to take my game to the level that I need to one day potentially go overseas or potentially go back and maybe try to go to the Olympics again.
Yeah.
And when I found out that Coach Heineke Meyer, former South African national team coach, was joining Houston, I said, yep, that's exactly where I need to be. And that's where the decision to come to Houston originated from. And so I packed up the bags. I
love it.
I got out to Houston and we just dug deep into preseason and ended up having a pretty special year considering, the year before the team was bottom of the lot.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing sideline reporting. I think it was 2018 and 19. I got to do the first game of 2020 and then the world shut down. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, like we were always cheering the team on, and it's been fun also to follow just like how much excitement there is around the team, how many more people want to go support and go to games. And obviously there was like that one piece missing of playoffs. So last year, seeing that we made it, so far, and I guess like the brotherhood, the friendships, and just, you can tell that it's just a very close team. So what do you think it was that made last year so special?
So it was a melting pot of like people from all over the world, right? I mean, we had, I think 13 guys from South Africa. We had 6 or 7 from Argentina. We had a Canadian, we had New Zealand, and then the rest basically from America. So it's a melting pot of all these different cultures and ways of life. But what all drew us together was each individual's love of rugby. And it's funny how when eyes are aligned on a singular goal, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what you believe in. You're a team and you're all striving towards something. And that's what connected us at first. And then after that, Coach Heineke is just he's a special and unique and one of a kind individual who breeds this culture of like family and this culture of winning. And so you couple the team environment and the people that I just mentioned with Coach Meyer, and it just bred something so special that, we'll never get back. And we're trying to replicate it this year. But every year in sports, you have guys coming in, you have guys coming out. So it's never the same. But I mean, we're in such a good position right now. I can see us, topping that year last year, both on the field and off the field, which is really, really exciting. But I think at the basis, there's a book called Good to Great, and it's about getting the right people on the bus. And I think that's what Coach Meyer is doing, is he's bringing in great rugby players, but he's bringing in even better humans. And I think that's really, a big piece of the puzzle.
I know that last season was pretty great for you. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
And you scored, was it 7 tries? Something like that?
Something like that. To be honest, the statistics to me go in one ear, go out the other.
That was my next question. I was going to ask you, I was going to kind of like, how do you view things? Like, regarding the upcoming season, are you more kind of like, well, last year, that's that. This is a brand new season. Or do you get competitive with yourself where you're kind of more leaning towards, okay, well, that was 7. This season, it'll be 8 or 10. Like, how do you view that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question because I could score 20 tries in a season, but not play good rugby. I could score 25 tries in a season and not be a good teammate. So for me, chasing metrics like that, tries and meters and all that is just, for me, it's pointless, and it kind of takes me away from the person that I want to become.
I like that answer.
So my goal for the season, it's a quote that I now live by. It's be the player that everybody wants to play with, because I think having the respect of your teammates is one of the greatest privileges that you can have, one of the greatest honors. And so, that's kind of my motto. And for me, it's about, how can I be consistently good? I don't want to be the player that has a great game week 1, a bad game week 3, and an average game, week 4, and then another great game later in the season. I want to be consistently good. I want to be relied on. And so it's about, I guess, minimizing the distance between my great and my average, staying in that high performance range. That's where my head's at. And so, like I talked about winning the day, that's where it comes from. How can I make small improvements every day in my game? How can I recover better than I did last year, so I'm at a physically and mentally better position than I was last year? And it's taking it week by week, game by game. And another piece of the puzzle is I want to be the best teammate that I can to the team. And because I think when you look back on your journey, you're going to remember not somebody's metrics, not how many tries they scored or he scored. It's going to be the memories you made, the experiences you had, and can I make other people on my team better people and better rugby players? And
is that kind of what you hope to accomplish this season on the personal level?
Yeah, no, I mean, this season I've got huge aspirations and goals for me on a personal level, not just as on the athletic field. It's always finding ways that I can better myself. So, I'm basically just trying to be a student of life and reading books, listening to podcasts, reaching out to people. And then it's failing. Like it's getting it wrong a lot. And I'm at the point where failure is natural. It happens, but how can I look back on those failures and try to get it right the next time?
I'm going to write that down. Probably.
Give me 1 second. I got to take something out of the oven.
Yeah, no.
Okay. 1 second. Before I burn my hand.
I love how you're cooking.
We got some butternut squash going.
Ooh, yum.
Life's busy.
And we'll be right back with some rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
I like to call this Step It Up. I like
Step It Up. I love it.
Okay, first
hit me with these.
Are you an early bird or night owl?
Oh, early bird.
I'm like a combination, I feel.
No, I'm up at like 5:30 and I'm in bed at 9.
Okay. I need to be like you. Like I will wake up early, but I'll go to bed late. I just feel like the best ideas come to me at night. It's so bad.
I can't do it. I get tired. I get so tired. Like I'm bad at going out late. Like once a month, once a blue moon, we'll have a night like that where we're out. But I'm like,
sure.
I can't do that.
No, if I'm up, I'm literally just unwinding or like I said, like work ideas come to me and I'm just like, I end up working. I have to stop. Favorite show to binge watch?
There's been so many. I just finished The Last Kingdom.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
That's really good.
Okay.
I love Suits.
Suits is good.
And I cannot wait for Outer Banks 3.
Have not seen it.
You're
I know.
killing me.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, go watch OBX1. First season. Okay. It's pretty good.
OBX. I'll do it. I'll let you know what I think.
Thank you. Good.
Okay.
Good.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet. But I'm more of a savory guy.
Oh. Okay.
Is that salty?
I think
I don't know.
Maybe.
Like I don't like sweets now. I don't like candy. I don't like sweets that much.
Okay.
Like
so more like like pastries or no? Like a croissant?
Yeah, I like pastries. Yeah, okay. I love those.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Biggest pet peeve.
Biggest pet peeve. I got a couple.
Name them. Top two.
Okay. Number one, somebody shows up late.
Okay. Yeah.
I know that's being petty. I know, but like, you could text me if you're gonna be late.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm gonna be okay with that.
Absolutely. Communication.
That's like one. Second pet peeve is if I hear you chew your food.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like that.
Or like chewing with your mouth open.
And I'm
or
sure
like
I do.
smacking your gum.
Oh my God. My mom would slap me. Like, heck no.
Okay, your go-to coffee order.
Ooh, typically just like a black coffee.
Okay.
Maybe a splash of cream, but if I'm feeling good, I'm gonna get a latte.
Ooh.
Or a cappuccino.
I'm like a chai latte person. That's what I'll do. Chai. What's wrong with that?
I don't know. Like, chai's good. I could have a chai like in the winter months when it's cold.
Yeah.
Because it has like, I don't know.
Like cinnamon.
It's got that flavor. Yeah. So it's good, but it wouldn't be like
everyday thing.
No. But I like them. I just black coffee. Sometimes I add some honey. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I'm simple
man. And you mentioned that you like a few coffee shops here in Houston. Which ones are your favorite so far?
I think I love West End.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a cool vibe because it's attached to the church. It's like an industrial look. Mm-hmm.
Cavo's good.
Cavo's decent.
Yeah.
We would always, when we had camp here with the US, I think we went like every single day, like 14 of us. And then I go do some work at Common Bond in Montrose a lot.
Common Bond is really good.
Like I'll just sit there and I know a couple of the guys who work there and just coffee and work. And that's just a good place to hang out.
That's fun. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that place.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. I like this one. What two Houston teammates would you start a band with and why?
Well, we need a singer because I'm horrible at singing. If I was going to go rock, I'd go Danny Barrett because he has a long hair.
Okay.
Because he could definitely be like a screamo type of AC/DC guy. I know Hetty has a decent voice.
Okay.
So I'd bring in Hetty. And then I'm thinking, I like my boy Davey Kutzer. I just feel like he's very universal. He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. Like he could do a lot of things. So I'm thinking potentially he could like maybe drum or do some instrument. Okay. I don't know.
Oh, I like this. I would definitely
put some thought into that one. Yeah, as long as I'm not singing.
What would you be doing then?
Probably like
managing the band.
Composing it.
Okay.
Managing it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
What's something that you've learned about yourself during your rugby career?
Ooh, what's something that I've never been asked that before? What's something that rugby has taught me about myself?
Mm-hmm.
I think number one, like I'm pretty damn mentally tough. I think going through a lot of the ups and downs that I've had in life from rugby and sports and whatnot and losing games and, injuries and whatnot. And I think that's given me this mental resiliency that I'm fortunate to have because I think later in life and even life right now, it's going to help me get by the darker, shittier situations.
Yeah.
Excuse my French. I think number two, what rugby has taught me about myself is that I thrive in a team environment. Like I love people and I love working towards something with other individuals. And I think I'm at my best when I'm surrounded by like-minded, by good people. And that's when I'm on my best. And so that's something that rugby has taught me, where, I couldn't see my life without sports, but take sports away. Who knows if I would have learned that about myself.
For me, like I was really bad with balancing things out. Like I'm very go, go, go. And I think it was lockdown. I was telling you that earlier that, I kind of was like, what else can I do? Or, it kind of forced me to kind of look deeper towards, my goals or like you mentioned things that you like outside of your profession. So, obviously we'll get into your podcast, but you've been doing a lot. And, how do you maintain that balance? Like, how do you go about, okay, like I'm going to take care of me, Christian, the rugby player, but also there are, other things that I do want to do. It's a
fine line because on one side of the equation, I don't really believe in balance.
Okay.
And I think
that makes me feel better.
I think that's the sportsman coming out of me because, you look at, some of the greats in this world in sports and how they got to where they are, there's no balance in their life, right?
Yeah.
You can look at Tom Brady, who just said he's retiring today.
Yeah.
But I mean, he sacrificed a family and a marriage and whatnot to be Tom Brady. So there was no balance in his life, but he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
So I think growing up in my life, there was honestly not a lot of balance. It was Friday nights, I'm not going out and partying. I'm probably going to go hit the gym. I'm going to say no to eating a cheeseburger with my family. I got to eat healthy. Mm-hmm. Growing up, there wasn't a lot of balance in my life, but that got me to where I'm at today. I'm not saying because I'm here, I can forego that mentality that I had. No, I think now I'm just a little more mature and I realize it's about prioritizing my life in certain ways.
Ooh, okay. I like
so, it's about, a simple example, I got to work out 5 days this week, right? Okay. So then that means 2 days I don't have to work out. So then I can go do things out, during that time. Mm-hmm. I'm big on having a morning routine because I know that's going to make me feel physically and mentally at my best. So I get up early, I dive into it, boom, that's done. So I prioritize that piece of the day. And now I got the rest of my day for other things. I think number one, it's just like, it's about envisioning the type of person that you want to become. And you really, I think you got to sit down and you got to figure out who that person is and what that life looks like and the conversations around that person, what those are like. And once you believe in that and you really want to attain that person in that lifestyle is okay, then your habits, your behaviors and everything got to align towards that person. If you even want to have fighting chance. And so that's where my head's at. That's where my head's at around balance is it's just about, my daily disciplines that are going to get me one step closer to the Christian Dyer that I want to become.
I like that so much. And you mentioned, how you didn't necessarily go out a lot with your friends because you were focusing on your stuff. And that just literally took me back. I started working in Major League Soccer when I was like 19. So I was still in college and it was because of an internship that my advisor told me not to do. She was like, oh, just do that your senior year. It's an easy class and you can just graduate with less work. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it now. I didn't listen to her. My internship was done after 3 months. And I was like, hey, can I stay and just work for free? Like just work game days. And they were like, this girl is crazy. What? Like, you don't want to get paid? I was like, no, you're not going to get any school credit. I'm like, I know. They're like, okay. And after that, the receptionist left and they were like, Steph, do you want to be a receptionist? I did think about it. I was like, well, I'm doing school full time. How is this going to work? And I took morning classes like 8 a.m. and I would get in at 9:30. I would take a class during lunch. That would be my lunch break. I would drive to school. Wow. And then I went back to work and then night class like at 7, which people were like, the professors were so nice to me, but I didn't do a lot of the things that the college people did, like going out a lot. If I did, I was DD and I would be like, okay, just for a little bit. And my going out was literally game days. That was it. And I don't regret it. I really don't.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to bet on yourself. You got to do things. You got to do things for you. You can't live a life trying to please other people. And that's a big lesson that I try to tell people is like, stop doing things for others. I'm not saying you shouldn't be in service of others, but don't live your life trying to please others.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get that wrong, or they also get it wrong that the perception of others is what influences them. And that deters them from going down or taking that risk or chasing that dream that they really want to because they're worried about what other people are going to say. Yeah. I mean, if it means something to you, you got to go for it. And you got to make sacrifices and do whatever it takes to go make that dream and turn it into a reality.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what would you say is the best advice that you've received?
There's a couple pieces. I mean, I love, there's a phrase, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So that's, like I just said, you got to bet on yourself.
Yeah, I like that.
Because the minute you start believing that it can't happen, there's no chance you're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
So number one, you got to bet on yourself. You got to believe it can happen. And then number two, it's being grateful. I think the more gratitude you have in your life, it's almost like the more things come to you. The more times you say thank you, the more times you're appreciative of everything you do have in your life versus everything you don't have in your life. Yeah. You're just going to be happier. You're going to see more positive things in your life. And one of my college coaches at Cal, that was our team motto, is grateful for everything, entitled to nothing. And that opened my eyes and my heart to mindset and that lifestyle. And I'm happy I learned it at an early age. I wouldn't say early, but earlier than most people do. So number two, just have more gratitude.
And what advice would you give to aspiring athletes?
It's about focusing on the day. It's about winning the day. You know, I remember in college, I was a freshman and I'm thinking about, hey, when I'm a sophomore or junior, I'm going to be playing more. And, you know, when I'm a senior, I'm potentially going to be team captain. And I'm going to be living that life that I keep thinking about later in life. Now, if I look back, you know what? I wish I grabbed Christian Dyer by the freaking collar and said, dude, stop thinking about that shit. Focus on what you do today. Focus each workout, trying to get a little bit stronger. Focus each time you step out on that field, you put your cleats on, just having a great practice about what you can do to just make a small improvement in your day. Because by the time you do get to your senior year, you're going to be way, way, way better than where you were going to be if you keep thinking about later, keep thinking about the future. So be present. And number two, work your tail off, because people will always say that, you know, he's lucky or she's lucky, but luck typically comes towards those who work the hardest.
Yes. That's another thing I'll be writing down.
I'm happy.
I love it. No, so good. And obviously with the new MLR season, you know, just literally days away, you know, I'm just really curious with how you usually prepare for game days. Do you have any pre-game rituals, or, you know, how do things change once the season starts?
You know, I used to get really nervous before games.
Ooh, okay.
I did. I think I used to fear failure. Like, I used to fear not having perfect games.
Yeah.
And that caused a lot of anxiety the day of games. And I'm not that type of person anymore. I told you I worked with a sports psychologist, and we worked through a lot of those things. And for me, game days, I still get a little nerves, but I think nerves are excitement. And,
it's a good thing.
Also nerves and excitement create adrenaline, which that's something you need during games. Yeah. So it's a good thing, but I'm excited to play. Like, I just worked my tail off all preseason and all week. Now it's time to go show off. Like, it's time to show out. And so game days, I'm excited, but I don't think about the game too much until I'm there. Number one thing I always do is I go out and I find a good cup of coffee. So if I'm in Houston, there's a couple places I go to. If I'm in another city, you know, we're going to Uber to a coffee shop. We're going to go find a good cup of Joe. I relax, I chill. I don't know. Like, I'm pretty low key.
Yeah.
I don't have, you know, these big game day rituals. You know, I listen to pretty chill music. It's pretty relaxing until I put the cleats on. I go through my routine, like my physical routine that I do before every game. And that's when I kind of snap in and I'm like, all right, it's time to rock and roll.
I like the snap in, because I know what you mean. It's not like I get nervous where I'm like freaking out before I do interviews or even big events, but I always tell myself the minute I'm no longer even just like a little nervous, that's when I should start worrying, you know, because it means that I just don't care anymore. Or perhaps I'm just like, I'm too comfortable. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Exactly. Yeah. And are you superstitious at all, especially playoffs?
No, I mean,
oh, you're thinking about it maybe.
No, because I'm just trying to think of it. Like, I put my cleats on the same way every time.
Okay. Maybe like little things.
And I listen to one song.
Okay.
Before I walk out on the field. And that's kind of two things that I think I do every time. But other than that, no.
My former Dynamo boss, oh my gosh, he used to be the president. Like, he was the most superstitious person. If you were standing next to him and we were winning, you better not move. Yeah. Like, yeah. And so I remember I would always stay away from him. Like, if we were winning, I'm like, I have stuff to do. I have to go interview. I have to do this. And he'd be like, you better sit there.
It's funny. Heineke, you know, if we say we're in an away game and we're wearing, just say yellow, and we win, the next week is the game's at home, but we're supposed to be in black. He said, no, we're wearing yellow. It's
stop. Like, really?
He's a little superstitious. Yeah. Who knows if that's going to get by this year.
Wow.
Yeah, he's funny.
Him and Chris Canetti should never be around each other ever.
Yeah, definitely. That'll just cause way too much anxiety.
Shout out to both of them.
Yeah.
And what can we expect this season
from the SaberCats?
Yes.
I think we're just going to bring energy. I mean, we got a pretty damn competitive team. I'll tell you one thing. I think we're going to be probably up there with one of the most physical teams in the league.
Nice.
We're fast. We recruited some guys got some guys from other teams. So I'm stoked that they're a part of the SaberCats organization because they just bring so much value to us. I think we're just going to be a little more composed than we were last year. And, you know, some people from the outside are like, oh, well, you guys made it, you know, to the playoffs and whatnot. I'm like, yeah, we did. And we had a great season. And I'm not going to take anything away from that. Yeah. But I think we're a lot more mature this year. Last year, we barely even had a preseason. I think we had 1 week with all the boys because visa issues. This week, we're together basically for the whole time. And so, yeah, we're in a good position. And I think we're all just excited and buzzing to be able to play our first game.
Well, I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready too.
I bet you are. I was hoping that I would be talking to you after your first preseason game, and that got canceled. So got
canceled.
That sucks.
Like 13, maybe more of them have had COVID, unfortunately. So
that's like the new thing, huh? Is that what you think sports will be like moving forward?
I don't know. I hope not. I thought we were over COVID. I really did. We had another week to train, and you know, when it comes to games and whatnot, then you got to basically back off some of your training beforehand and after. And so now that we didn't have to go through that, we kept going full on, and so it was good for us in preseason to just keep ticking on.
Okay, so last but not least, I really, 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 really want to talk about your podcast, The Chase.
The Chase.
So good. And I was telling you earlier, you're really good. You're so natural. You have like this genuine interest, and it's really good. So thank you. Props to you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
No, of course. I speak the truth. And how did that come about? How did you come up with the concept?
Yeah. I wish I started it earlier. I mean, I really did. And I always wanted to get into content. I always wanted to have a YouTube channel because I first of all, I love, like you, I mean, I love telling stories. But I also love sharing ways that I live my life as a rugby player. And I hope to inspire other people through the way I live my life and what I do to go chase their own dream. But I was always worried about what people were going to say. So I told you, I mean, I matured a lot since I was, you know, high school, college. And it got to a point where I was like, you know, if I really want to do this and it's a dream that I really want to chase and the person that I told you that I want to become, if that's really what I want to do, I got to do it.
Yes.
So I was like, you know, let's put pen to paper. Like, let's get an episode recorded. Let's reach out to some people for help. Like, let's just make one move. Yeah. Let's get it one done and see where that takes me. And I did it. And I was like, oh, geez, like the ball's rolling. I loved it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about me. It was about the stories and the dreams and the journeys of all these incredible people that have come on. And so it's twofold. Number one, a lot of the people that have been on so far are in my close network, and they're basically mentors and inspirations to me. So, you know, I was like, if the stories and everything they tell me are going to help me out as both a person and as an athlete, it shouldn't stop there. Yeah. Why don't I make this public and share all these stories with everyone else so they can benefit from it? So that's where the podcast, I guess, idea originated. Yeah. You know, the goal was to create stories, to have conversations, to create content that inspires people to go chase a dream. Because I think at my core, that's my why. And rugby is right now my platform, and I'm fortunate enough to have it, you know, to spread those messages and to use it to inspire people. And so that's where we're at right now. And
so good.
I think we're at the infancy stages of it. You know, there's things I wish I did differently, but that's life, you know.
You learn. Yeah.
I was basically going into it blind. I have no clue how to operate a computer, a kit like this microphone right here. I got on an hour Zoom call just so I could figure out how to freaking get this thing set up. Like I'm so bad at technology. Yeah. But I'm learning as we go, and I'm loving it every single second of it. And you know, my goal is to create a community of basically like-minded individuals. You know, that's my goal.
Were you a communications major? Or I didn't even ask you that earlier. What's your
I was
major?
Political science.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, I'm never going to go in politics. Like. I mean,
you never know. Honestly, I think you'd actually do a great job.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, but you know what politics are like these days.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say go do it, but I'd support you if you did.
Christian Dyer for president. All right. No, I mean, and you could probably, I mean, test to this. Like, the more you're in front of a camera and the more you're behind a microphone, it gets easier.
Yeah, for sure.
I used to hate public speaking. I mean, I could hear my thoughts in my head. Like, if you've ever seen the 8 Mile, I was B Rabbit. Like, I would choke.
That's like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I mean, that was me, and so I embraced
He's choking.
Oh yeah, choke. But now it's like I love it, and I guess what makes it easier is the fact that I'm doing this for not just myself, and so when I remind myself of that, it just it makes the dark days lighter. It gets me by those harder moments because it's not just about me. It's about what can the brand and whatnot that I'm building, how can that influence someone else? And if that inspires one person or a million people, either way, it's a win for me. And so,
absolutely.
That's where my head's at.
Yeah, it's bigger than you. And your guests have been great. Like you've picked some really special things. People. Yeah.
The first episode I had, Josh Emmett, he's fighting for the UFC belt in like 10 days. Like it's so cool.
Yeah.
And so, so I'm pretty privileged to have that network, and I hope we can just keep continuing to spread some good stories and inspire some more people.
Yeah. And I know I asked you this question earlier about what you've learned about yourself as a rugby player, but what have you learned about yourself being a host and interviewing and, basically producing your own show?
I think one thing that like the chase has taught me, and it's mostly off camera stuff.
Yeah.
I think that I bring a lot of good out of people. I think the energy that I bring to the table, or the camera, the microphone, however you want to describe it, I think genuinely does bring like the best out of people.
That's so important.
That's something that I learned about myself. Like, I think I can hopefully not change, but at least influence somebody's life for the better. And I think I am an inspiration to people. And, the other piece of the puzzle is because I'm so bad at technology, it's taught me that I can learn new skills, even though I may not think I have any of them. And so that's, I guess, reassuring for life. It's like, hey, I may not know something like I do rugby or the weight room, but because I have a will to do it, there's a way. And so that's a cool thing that I learned, that had I not done something like this, I definitely wouldn't have learned.
Yeah. And I love that you're doing that, because it's so important to also like set yourself up for success off the field, and you're doing that, and you're being like such a good role model about, not setting aside other passions that one might have.
No, that's the biggest piece is I told like what I just because I'm a rugby player, that's not who I am. That's just a small piece of who I am right now. And it's just what I do in this moment. But there's a life after rugby that's going to be longer and probably bigger than my life playing rugby. And I guess I'm fearful to be in the same position I am today in a year's time. Like that's what drives me to keep learning and keep growing myself. And when I'm done with rugby, I want to be in a position where I'm free. I'm doing things that I love. I'm surrounded by people whom love me and I love them. And that's why I'm going balls to the wall with the chase is, I want to continue this after my playing days are done.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to listen. We can watch on YouTube, right? And listen.
YouTube and Spotify and Apple podcasts.
Everyone go listen.
Oh, thank you.
Well, this was so much fun, Christian. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So proud of you. And you've worked hard to be here, and your podcast's so good. So don't stop.
I won't. It's these moments are cool to live back some of my experiences and my stories. Yeah. So I appreciate the opportunity to do so.
Of course. No, and we'll be cheering you on this season. And your first regular game of the season is an away game against Dallas.
Yep, in
and
Dallas.
Then the home opener, February 25th against Nola
February
Gold.
25th. Yeah, it'll be a good one.
If you're in Houston, get your tickets. And I know that Christian and the team would want to see you all there.
I hope we do see as many as we can.
Yeah. And the games are so much fun too.
Yeah. More people need to have that first experience, because that's the coolest part is we get so many kids out to games, and after the games, the kids, they run on the field, they greet the players. Like it's a special moment. And so if you're listening to this and you've never been to a rugby game,
do it.
I highly encourage you to come out.
Well, thank you so much, Christian.
You're very welcome.